Hey guys, it's Drexel here with Black Hollywood Live's Political Culture. We've got a lot going on. Brexit happened last week in the United Kingdom. SCOTUS had a lot of rulings coming down, and my good friend Terrance Thomas joins us via Skype. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into Black Hollywood Live, Political Culture.
Hey guys, it is Drexel Heard here in the studio. You can follow me at Drexel Heard.
Hey guys, it's Elayna. You can find me at hey_Slay.
What's going on, guys? You can follow me at Brittany Sorrells.
What an incredibly busy week. What an incredibly crazy month for news. Got a lot to talk about. We're going to switch the format up for a little bit today. I know we always start talking main topics at the beginning of the show, but we've got a friend via Skype to talk a lot about things that have been happening over the past week.
We have Terrance Thomas here on Skype with us, who will be giving us a lot of commentary, a lot of opinions, and just critique. He's an artist developer. He is known as a cultural critic. So I'm very excited just to get all of your commentary and feedback on several topics. As you heard, we started with Freedom from the BET Awards this past weekend, where Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar both performed, and that was a very powerful performance, I want to say, in my opinion. Just the two of them collabing, what the song means, and just the essence of it all. So a lot of talk about what happened at the BET Awards, especially of what it means in politics and what it means for freedom for almost everyone. And Jesse Williams gave a speech after he got the humanitarian award, and he talked about, basically, he wrapped it up in the Black Lives Matters movement. So, Terrance, I wanted to get your opinion on Jesse's speech. How do you feel about that? And the essence of everything that he said.
Well, first off, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
We want to get that out of the way. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think if we're going to start off with Jesse Williams, I'll first say that I really, really respect the work he's doing and the position he's sort of taken up in the industry as an activist and as a longtime educator. I will say, though, I left the speech both excited and slightly disappointed.
Okay.
He said some really, really wonderful things. I think a lot of folk have seen the transcript or watched the video. And if they haven't, they can certainly do that. But I sort of left his speech thinking about who wasn't brought into the room in that moment, considering the sort of like month we've had after the fallout of the Pulse shootings in Orlando, on the tail end of another attack being prevented on LA Pride, Black Lives Matter pulling out of the parade in San Francisco for really, really wonderful reasons, and also on the day of New York City Pride, Jesse Williams makes this wonderful impassioned speech about Black liberation, and there was no mention of queer and trans Black folk, and that really, really sort of like disappointed me, only because I know that he's been really, really comprehensive in his activism in a lot of ways in the past, and that moment on that platform would have really been very symbolic for a number of queer and trans folk who often find themselves left out of liberation narratives when cisgendered and heterosexual Black folk sort of have the microphone, especially because a lot of the work that he highlighted is work that's been done by queer and trans Black folk, and especially Black women. I was a little disappointed to not hear him bring us in the room in that moment.
Do you think that has a lot to do with the fact that it can kind of go hand in hand sometimes? Do you think that the LGBT community, and I know we talk about this a lot, or we just talk about it in circles a lot, throughout all the shootings over the past 2 years, the LGBT community really wasn't there. So do you think that kind of, if you're not going to be with us, then we're not going to be with you, and we're just not going to talk about you? Because there's a lot of times where the LGBT community will not acknowledge the Black community, and vice versa. So do you think...
I think it's clear about like what we're talking about. When I'm talking about LGBT communities, and especially in this moment, I'm specifically talking about Black LGBT folk, and like I said, two of the founding members of Black Lives Matter are queer women, queer Black women. When we talk about lives that have been lost over the past few years, folk like, Lamia Beard. There are a few other names here, like trans women who've been murdered, whose stories only sort of made it into a few headlines. Also who are sort of victims of systemic violence from police officers as trans women. We're talking ones who are both sexually assaulted and who are attacked by civilians because of their gender ID. We've been here. We've always been here. We've been here as long as, going back as far as Audre Lorde, and before her. So that I don't know that it's necessarily true. I don't think it's true that the quote unquote LGBT community hasn't been present.
So
I don't think white LGBT.
That's what I mean. That's real. I mean, the community as a whole, HRC and the Human Rights Campaign, really not acknowledging certain ideas or certain situations that have happened over the past few years.
Yeah, and I understand that absolutely. But then I also think about I think about post victims, and I think about the India Clarks of the world, or the Ty Underwoods, or even Michael Johnson, Tiger Mandingo, who's fallen victim to a racist justice system. But it's not just about racism in this case. It's also about the queer antagonism and the homophobia, and specifically a racialized queer antagonism and homophobia that sees him locked up and criminalized as someone with HIV. So when I think about Black liberation, when we're not actually bringing all Black folk into these spaces, we're actually not talking liberation. We're talking liberation of some Black people,
right,
which isn't actually liberation. It's actually just offering them more privilege. And I think the same thing goes for, say, folk with disabilities and mental illnesses. There are a number of victims whose reality circumstances were not just the result of, say, race. And those are the Anthony Hills of the world, the Quintonio LaGreer. These folk also were battling mental health issues at the time that they were killed by police officers. And if we don't actually talk about these narratives and bring these folk into the spaces when we are being activists and when we are talking Black liberation, then they're left behind, because liberation doesn't trickle down.
Right.
Okay, Terrance, let me ask. I mean, so with Jesse Williams' speech, he did talk about Black Lives Matter, and he didn't say that he was incorporating the LGBT community at all. However, you wanted him to talk about Black Lives Matter, the Black lives that are a part of the LGBT community. Is that not inclusive with?
So it's not to me. I think it's important again to name. He named Tamir Rice, and he named Eric Garner, and he named Rekia Boyd. I think there was room for maybe 2 more names or 3 more names in there, folk whose narrative within or whose own personal narratives within this larger narrative of systemic violence against Black folk carry a bit more nuance than those of, say, Tamir Rice or Eric Garner.
Right.
Or Rekia, folk who are perceived as like cisgender and heterosexual. With
that said, last Friday, one of the officers was found not guilty. Well, the Freddie Gray verdict, one of the officers, the driver, was actually found not guilty. And there are still 3 other officers who were involved with the case who are still pending trial. So while we're on the topic of voicing victims who have lost their lives due to whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's LGBT, whether it's just racism in total, or just, like no love, or however it may go, how do you feel about the Freddie Gray verdict and the officer being found not guilty?
I mean, of course, it's disappointing. It's also not surprising. I don't know that anyone is surprised by the Freddie Gray verdict, and frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get, if we got no one sort of being held accountable for his death. I certainly think that is the plan, and so we'll see how things play out. But ultimately, I think the institution is going to do everything in its power to protect itself, which includes subverting, holding officers accountable for the death of an innocent man who was really fearing for his own life.
Right. And with And with where you stand, on your opinion of what's happening around the world and what's happening within the Black community, who would be your ideal presidential candidate? Like who? I love the smile for that question. Like that's my answer.
It's okay, Terrance. I'm sitting right here. You can say my name. I don't even want to say it forever.
I can't say that I know who an ideal candidate is. Frankly, I don't believe in the system that we're operating under at the moment, and so I haven't entertained thoughts of who I think might sit at the top of a sort of a racist, globally imperialist, sort of patriarchal hierarchy. I haven't given thought to who would be the best person to sit there. I actually think the system itself is inherently racist. It's inherently anti-Black. And until we're in a position to dismantle it, and until we take that up as the task, it doesn't matter who you put there, whoever they are. They're just a figurehead operating under a system that inherently, hates us.
Do you think that we talk a lot about Black Lives Matter as an organization? Do you think that the Black Lives Matter movement could have done more and can continue to do more to push candidates at the local level? For example, the leader one of the founders of Black Lives Matter ran for mayor in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, DeRay, I'm assuming you're talking about DeRay McCuskey.
Right.
I don't know that he's a founder.
I say that as I think that was like his calling card while he was running.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter was founded by 3 Black
women. Right.
He's not a founder, but and I think this is also clear through sort of like Black Lives Matter and the positions they've taken. But this may or may not be the case. For me, what I will say is, frankly, even at a local level, I feel like we live in a system that we're inherently set up to fail under. And when I think about who is granted access, even at local levels, when I think about the cost, when I think about the resources necessary, I think oftentimes the people that I would trust, certainly with my own, with my safety, with my well-being, oftentimes are not the people who are in a place to take advantage of resources to move even at a local level politically.
Right. So for the record, are you saying that when the upcoming election arrives that you will not be voting?
I'm consciously abstaining from voting in the general election for the office of president.
That is a good way to say that.
But I do understand the ways in which local politics really, really impact, especially the most vulnerable people.
Right.
So I do what I feel I need to do as a responsible registered voter.
New York had a
decide who I vote for at a local level, but in terms of the general election, I think it's a false choice. There isn't anyone that I'm interested in giving my vote to.
New York had a primary today. Another primary today. Did you vote in that primary?
So I'm actually not. I live in New York now, but I'm actually still a registered voter in Florida.
Oh, well, they've got a primary coming up too. You got a couple of Senate seats that need filling. Senate seat that needs filling down there.
Yes, they do. And yes, absentee, all good. Hey.
So if you want to engage in more conversation with Terrance, you can find him on all social media at @ITerryTommy. Terrance, thank you so much for taking the time to come into our show and just, talk with us and give us your opinions and just give us a different perspective than the ones that we share at this table. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us.
Yeah, thanks for coming
Thank you,
on.
Terrance.
And I know we will continue our Facebook conversations as like we do all the time. Thanks so much, Terrance.
Thank you, guys.
What a really great conversation. I think that's very different than what we, kind of normally get into, and we don't often talk about things that outside of the political realm, and there are
Right.
just so many different layers to politics that a lot of people don't talk about. So I appreciate the fact that that Terrance brought up things that sometimes we don't get a chance to get to. Let's get to things that happened last week. So Brexit happened.
Oh,
boy.
And for those that don't know, Brexit is just Britain's exit. It's just a
It's a combination of
combination
words.
combination of words. And it's all about the European Union. So let's talk about what that means, what the European Union means, first of all. It's just a makeup of 27 nations. And
Well,
it
was 28.
was 28. I think Russia, decided they didn't want to be a part of anything, as usual. Kind of created back in 1952. Do you guys think that... Well, let's talk about the results, first of all. It was like a 52-48
48.
result, which is very close. It was less than 1 million votes.
Yeah.
So we are in this situation right now in the United States where a lot of people are very angry,
Yes.
and they're starting to make a lot of snap decisions. Like when we're angry, you make a lot of snap decisions. It was just a crazy number in the cities the bigger cities, London, Scotland, and places like that. They voted to remain, and the smaller cities, more the working class families, voted to leave. Do you guys think that that's going to have an effect here?
I definitely feel like it would cause more people to stand up and speak out, because what ended up happening with this decision, so although we feel like it maybe was a quick, tempered kind of decision, the people in the UK have been upset for a law for years. So when this came into play, of course they're angry. So of course they want to back out. Of course they want to leave. That example that it has on individuals here would definitely take effect, because now we as a country were able to see other people from another nation react a certain way and kind of get what they wanted. So I do feel like it'll kind of have a trickle down effect, but I don't think it will be as big as what happened last week.
I mean, when people say they got what they wanted,
Right.
First of all, the number one Google search right after was, what is the EU? And we're starting to see the effects of this decision. So, I always call it a big temper tantrum.
Right.
I call the Trump voters a big temper tantrum. I call a lot of those folks who want something but don't know exactly what they want. They have an end goal, but they don't have an option on the other side.
I agree.
And I think that's what happened a lot in this particular instance, where they got what they wanted. Now they have to reap the repercussions,
Right.
and they don't know how to get out of it.
That's
right
what I was
now.
gonna say.
So there's this referendum, now there's this, like we have here in the United States, where like change.org, or you can go to whitehouse.gov and you can sign a petition, and Congress will have to, or the White House will have to respond. Where in this case, you have to get they have a thing like that where you have to, if you get 1 million votes or 100,000 votes or whatever, Parliament now has to bring it up. So they've got like 3 million, 4 million signatures on this, so Parliament's going to have to debate this. This is a non-binding thing, but do you guys think that Parliament has an obligation in this very close 1 million votes to stick with the people's vote or find a better way to go forward?
I'm going to have to say, and to back up, I do agree that, like we said, that they're angry. I think that it was, I don't want to say it was a rushed decision. I think that, we only see a small, look from overseas of what's going on just as much as for us, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so, do I think that it will affect us in some way economically? And them, I know even from looking that a lot of people, billionaires, have lost a lot of money already over when they left, the union. I think what we're seeing is that people's outcry as far as having a better foundation, you know what I mean, is really important. You can't exercise your vote overall for a system if the system is flawed. And no, nothing is perfect. We know that.
Yeah.
But I think when your rights are getting taken or things are going just as much as American with black people, I think that you're going to see these things gradually start happening around the world. And I think that that's, they finally stood up and was like, look, no more, and it is going to be, like I said, it is going to have a lot of you're going to see a lot of consequences, like you said, people losing money economically. But this is what they truly believe in, and they felt was right.
One of the things that we learned about the European Union, that it was more of a monetary union than a political union.
Yeah.
So instead of working within those 27 countries to better everybody, it was like, we need to now introduce free trade, which I personally don't think is a bad thing, but it kind of has, London is the central, like New York City, almost
Right,
like Wall
exactly.
Street, almost like that's where all the money kind of flows out, and it doesn't get pushed back out to those people. So I think that there's going to be they're going to have to figure out a better way to either come up with a deal with the European Union to kind of keep some of their privileges, but I don't know that the European Union is going to be as welcoming, because they're ready for them to get out. To the point that they just lost their Prime Minister David Cameron is resigning.
Put in his he was done.
The MP of the Labour Party lost his voted no confidence today. But I'm wondering, and Donald Trump was in Scotland at the time. He.
Oh, we're not going to talk about what he said.
Right.
And his response was, "Oh, well, this is good." He was for Brexit as much as Vladimir Putin was for Brexit. I'm just not sure that he was like, it's good for business. And I think that's the problem with Donald Trump, is that everything that he says, every response that he comes back with
is business.
And I say that not his campaign's response. I say him. Because he is not in sync with what his campaign's responses are.
Right.
Paul Manafort, his new campaign manager, is spitting out really comprehensive statements. But as soon as you ask Donald Trump a question, he goes off script. So he's got to figure out a better way, and I'm not giving him advice, but he's got to figure out a better way to get back into sync with those statements. And it's very dangerous that he's making statements like that, and hopefully the American people will kind of see right through that over the next.
It's going to be
few
hard
months.
for him to get in sync with what his campaign is doing, because he is not the likely candidate to run for president. Like, we already know, like, he's going to be off with what his campaign is doing, because he is a man who comes from business. Like, that is what he knows. That is what he does. This is not his arena. This is not his field. So every time he gives commentary, it's going to go off the radar. And I just hope that everyone who is listening and watching is understanding that it's off. You know what I mean? So even if he becomes president of the United States, he's gonna be a puppet. Like, he's gonna do what he wants and say what he wants, but he's gonna have to be pulled. He's gonna have strings, because he doesn't know what he's going to be doing.
Right. And I think and I was having a conversation with somebody earlier, I think that is what we saw, and we were talking about Benghazi. The Benghazi report came out today from the House Select Committee on Benghazi, and the report kind of cleared Secretary Clinton for the most part, but it talked about, I always talk about this, and I love the Obama administration, I love the Obama White House, but it talked about how other agencies failed this particular situation. And I think with Donald Trump, you're going to see, in a hypothetical Donald Trump presidency, you're going to see exactly what happened in President Bush's presidency. Right. You're going to see a president who is going to be railroaded by his Secretary of Defense, by his Vice President, by his Secretary of State. Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell ran the White House.
For sure.
And I think for the most part, Donald Trump's not going to be able to. And on the other side, Paul Ryan's not going to. They're just going, and Mitch McConnell, they are going to control exactly what the message is. And Donald Trump, in his first 100 days, the Republicans could easily go, we're going to roll with the Democrats, and we're going to impeach you, and because you have kind of, done for whatever reason, and they won't be sad about it.
No.
They can say, we tried.
We tried to work with them.
We went with the will of the people, and we tried, and he has taken things a little bit too far, and now we have to recall him.
Yeah, and that's good, as you said. I really think that's kind of what they're aiming toward, is kind of like, okay, we got the first 100 days. Let's see what you're going to do. And then they can finally make that decision, like you said, of like...
Try not to bomb anybody.
First 100 days.
First 20 days.
You're not going to make it. That,
State of the Union.
We're hoping. We're just,
Like, what?
We're hoping that he doesn't get in office, but
that is not going to be. That is not going to be the situation.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, I'm going to try to, at least during this rest of the election, I'm going to try to be at least a little bit more fair with the commentary and
to be in the middle.
to the point where I think for the most part I enjoy I was at Politicon this weekend and I enjoy I actually met more Republican faces at Politicon this weekend in Pasadena than I did Democrats. Michael Steele was there, Sarah Palin was there, so
we did see the Sarah Palin picture.
Sarah Palin was there, and Gary Johnson was there. I got a chance to meet those guys, but you realize that the Republican Party has a lot they want to offer, but they don't quite know how to get their message straight, and they want to do that. And I think for the sake of the nation, Barack Obama brought it up during his Jimmy Fallon interview, where he said they do have to, for the sake of the nation, get their stuff together. So, what's next for Brexit? We'll just have to kind of see where the referendum goes, and if that's going to be, if Parliament's going to go roll with it. Right now, I know Angela Merkel, the head of state over in Germany, has said we're just going to wait until Parliament votes. We're not even going to do on the record. We're not even going to have that conversation with them until Britain figures it out. So hopefully, Parliament will Parliament will make a decision that works for Britain, for the United Kingdom.
At the end of the day, they need to make a decision that not only acknowledges the people of the country, but that also ensures that they will have a set foundation moving forward, because it's going to cause a lot of controversy when it comes to funds and tech dollars. Like a lot of the people of the UK, they were excited about this because they're one of the reasons they were upset was because billions of pounds or a lot of their money was going to the EU when it could be used for things in their country. Like they felt like they were putting out more money and not receiving the support. So I'm hoping that when Parliament, when they finally do make a decision, that they find just a balance that acknowledges their people and also the health of the country moving forward.
We'll see what happens there.
And I have to say, because it was so funny, because I was like, I can't wait to tell them. I don't know if y'all seen the tweet that Trump put out when he landed there in Scotland, and he was like, I'm so glad that you guys, stood up for what was right and blah, blah, blah. And somebody tweeted, it was like, we voted in.
No,
what are you
Scotland.
talking about?
He was talking about
He was
Scotland.
talking about Scotland. He was like, I'm so happy Scotland voted out. And they were like,
wrong country. You just don't know where you're just going with the flow. You don't know what's going on.
Wrong country, kid.
It's very
Wrong
odd.
country, yes, exactly.
He's not that bright. Also, yesterday, the Supreme Court, it's June, and of course, Supreme Court rulings come out. And this, let me tell you what, June is busting out all over.
Yeah,
that was a musical theater reference for any musical theater fans.
Drexel does the show now for to the Tony Awards and etc. And now he want to come out.
All over. We started out with Orlando this month.
Yeah.
We went to, we wrapped up the Democratic primary. We wrapped up the Republican primary for the most part. We get into Brexit. We get Supreme Court. It was just like June just cannot stop.
Yeah, so much.
And it was Pride Month, so there was a lot going on. But yesterday there was three cases that I really wanted to touch on that I really think are important for pretty much our community and pretty much the United States, our nation. Let's start with the United States versus Texas on immigration. So this kind of dealt with the President Obama's 2013 executive order allowing undocumented immigrants to kind of stay in the United States. Now, the decision was 4-4. So obviously we only have 8 justices on the court. So it kind of stayed Texas, the circuit court in Texas, their ruling to kind of say that it was unconstitutional. It's something that the executive branch just cannot do. I'm wondering how the Latino population in the United States is growing.
Very.
It is something that Republicans don't seem to quite understand, and I will be very interested to see how that affects this election.
I want to say that it is going to affect. It has already affected the election, because with with the candidates that are running, it has been a big immigration conversation between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It's about, how Donald wants to build that wall because Republicans don't understand the immigration plan and how Democrats, kind of want it to work out. So I feel like it's already taking a very big chance. It's already affected. It's either going to be, if a Republican candidate wins, it's either going to be like, okay, no more immigrants into the U.S., or if Democrats win, it's going to be like, okay, let's still work it out. So that's already taken toll. What will happen? We're not sure. I think it really just depends on who gets the seat. It was unfortunate to hear about what happened with the U.S. and Texas because after the other. Because it's only 8 of them voting now, and it was a split tie, it was 4-4. This basically means for Obama's immigration plan that he no longer leaves with the legacy of having this plan intact. It now has to be
debated in Congress.
Yeah, it has to be backseated until we get a new president. So that's what. With that case, that's what made it more so unfortunate because this has been a long-going conversation.
Right, and I think with Brexit. A majority of that decision was based off of immigration.
Definitely, for sure.
And I think it's extremely dangerous to this idea of xenophobia in global xenophobia for the most part. London and the United Kingdom. If you're in the European Union, you have to accept an unlimited amount of migrants into your country.
Right.
London and England, for the most part, has a high population of Muslims that people don't quite get. And I think that this idea that Donald Trump is spewing around the country, things that we've seen globally, has a lot of people shaken up. And it's dangerous to think that way, and so hopefully that is not the case here, and won't kind of trickle its way over here. I think with a decision like this, I just think that it brings to the forefront the need for a Democratic president, the need for a Democratic Congress, and getting a Supreme Court that is going to continue this idea of the American melting pot. And I think that decisions like this are very dangerous.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this since, when we first kicked off the show and our first episode, and I remember saying we were talking about pretty much similar thing with immigration, and just that we all came here, you know what I mean? We're all immigrants, and so for you to exclude Latinos as if you can't come here and live life and do better and work and provide for your family, when we're all a big melting pot. We all came from different places, but you want to pinpoint a certain demographic is mind-boggling. And of course, I'm a Texas girl, so that was very hurtful to see, that was the decision that was made. You know what I mean? Because our Latino population is huge in Texas. You know what I mean? Right. And so, I hope that in the future that they do move towards, like Lindsay spoke last week, that it's America's many different faces, many different sexual orientations, and once people accept that, we can move on and do better, and you know what I mean, and really be equal with one another.
Goodness, I don't know what would happen if xenophobia just trickled down from the UK to the US. We would literally be doomed.
If Donald Trump gets his way, I think we're going to move in that way. A couple other decisions that came by. Actually, there were a lot of decisions that came by. Even the Bob McDonald decision.
It literally has been decision like this whole past week.
I'm tired. There was a huge Women's Health versus Hellerstedt, a decision 5-3 on abortion rights in the United States. Texas, again, in the news.
Sorry, guys.
Texas. About closing abortion clinics, they kind of ruled that that it was unconstitutional for the state of Texas to kind of close those abortion clinics. And then the Fisher versus United States at Austin decision, 4-3 affirmative action. Texas is all over.
I know. I just have to keep apologizing. I'm so sorry, guys.
Texas has been on the forefront of decisions for the past week.
Right.
Yes,
so many things have come through there. It's been busy.
I'm not
busy
surprised
in
that
Texas.
Texas has a lot of things going on. I love Texas.
Okay, wait a minute. All right.
Because Beyonce's from Houston. But they have a lot going on, and I think that affirmative action really affects the African American community.
For sure.
I won't even say the most, but it does. We talk about it quite often. Just when we went to college, people would ask me all the time. I went to North Carolina State, so people would ask me all the time, well, how do you feel about affirmative? This is 2004 when this was a thing.
Yeah.
And that is a
Don't tell your age. Don't tell your age.
So my question is, just real quick, how do you guys feel about that decision? It's 4-3. The question was, does the use of racial preferences in undergraduate admissions by the University of Texas violate the Equal Protection Clause? The Supreme Court says no. Justice Kagan actually took no part in it because she was Solicitor General, so she was actually a part of that case before that. Do you guys feel that that affirmative action is something that is needed going forward in our higher education system? I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, it's loaded because for me, and this is where I stand on a lot of things, and you guys could see this basically every time I talk about like presidential candidates. When it comes to affirmative action, in my opinion, it depends on the circumstances in my mind. Like, so especially when it comes down to the women's health and like abortion, when it just comes to different things, I feel like it's situational. So I can never say yes or no, because in some cases I'm like, yes, affirmative action is needed, and in other cases I'm just like, no.
You mean in cases of like by region?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the South?
Like so because I am from Florida, and you know, I went to school in Florida, and that's where I spent most of my life. There are certain things that we are affected by in the South that aren't affected in the other parts of the US. But I've moved cross country, like, you know, 3,000 plus miles, and there are things that I'm being exposed to here, and I'm just like, wow, that is different. So it really just depends. So that's where I'm like, okay, yes, each state should have should make decisions and have states on, you know, what's affecting them and what's not, which is why it is, even though Texas is in the news for all these decisions, it is exciting that they are. But for me, I have to say it really, you know, just depends on region.
Yeah, and you really took the words out of my mouth, because it's when you're from the South, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And me from being from Texas, and I went to HBCU, so being there, I still got which is so funny, you know, the affirmative action. How do you feel about it? I'm like, gosh, it's, you know, well, it wasn't 2004. It was, you know, it was 2007, 2008. But
whoa.
But, you know, and I really do. I really think it does really depend on, like I said, the circumstances and just where you're at, and just, you know, that these things still are here and still are present. I mean, it's, and I hate to say that, but it's still racism and black people being hung in Texas and Viper, Texas till this day, and it's 2016.
And,
you know what I mean?
And to the point of the Voting Rights Act being struck down, you know, the South has pretty much free reign to kind of have no check on them when it comes to voting rights. You know, we definitely don't want to go back to, you know, trying to figure out jelly bean, you know, how many jelly beans are in a jar or handwriting. So I think that there has to be some sort of balance. We got to get. Obviously, we're in a really sensitive time, so we really have to get back to what's right, and I think hopefully after this election we can kind of weed out those problems. We're actually going to do a Twitter snap poll, so you can follow us on Twitter at BHL Polyculture.
Yes.
So the question today is, do you think the Brexit vote will have an effect here in the U.S., yes or no? So just follow us on that. Take the poll, and we'll talk about the results.
And be sure
next
to use
week.
The hashtag BHLPC so that we all can just follow it and see it. But definitely respond and do the poll.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
I'm going to take the poll.
I was going to say, I can't wait to see what Drexel is going to say with his responses on there.
I don't know. Well, it's like a snap poll. You can just click yes or no. You don't even have to make a response. But obviously, we want to know your responses to that, too, especially the folks that are in the chat room right now. B, lots of stuff happening in the world today.
Oh, yes. And I hate to be the one to start off with sad news, guys, but literally 2 hours ago, 10 p.m. in Turkey time in Istanbul was a bomb attack. 36 were dead there at the international airport. They're still counting bodies right now, so that's just as of right now. And Drexel, we were able to talk about this right before the show, like, B, this just happened. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Like, you have to say it right
You have
now.
to say it's breaking news. So, you know, it happened there at international airport, 36 dead. They're still trying to find out, you know, exactly what happened, how many dead bodies there are, and so we will definitely, you know, keep you abreast as the weeks go by to get more information about that. To turn to something a little bit more light, but still a little crazy, our man Kanye West. If you've been under a rock, Kanye West came out or dropped a, was it a song or was it his album? It was
He came out
it was
with
artwork.
a video.
Yes.
It was a video for his song Famous.
Correct. And this was a very interesting cover that he came out with. And it includes him, his wonderful wife, Kim.
What did you say? Or what?
Visual.
Yeah, the visual. Yeah, and we can't show you the visual here, but I will tweet it out because it's just that extreme. But he is in the bed with Kim. I believe it was Ray J, our man Donald Trump. Who else was it? Taylor Swift.
Rihanna.
Chris Brown. So there's several celebrities, and I guess
George Bush.
Oh yeah, I forgot about George.
Can we talk about George Bush being in the bed?
Can we talk about Donald Trump, the way he was laying? And it was. Yeah,
No.
it's outrageous. We're definitely going to tweet out the picture as soon as our show wraps. But from what Kanye West was saying, it shows that he was basically trying to show the 6 degrees of separation, how everybody's connected in
bed.
In bed, show business, political,
Right.
everything. So.
A very good statement. I saw the photo,
Yes.
and I remember reading the comments, and I was like, people were like, "Oh, you see that they're breathing," and I was like, "What?"
No.
Yeah, and they were wax
I was going to say there's a difference to seeing the photo than to watching the actual video because they're breathing. Like, so the images are not actually of the celebrities. It's of the wax figures that someone else created.
But Kanye's the only
And
real
they
one in the
looked
bed.
really
Right.
real.
Yo, that Taylor Swift one was
in
outrageous.
the video, every time it would pass by a body, it was like, and I'm like, wait a minute.
And what was interesting, what was so funny, such Kanye West style, is that he tweeted out and said, I'm waiting for somebody to sue me. And I'm like, okay.
I do like, outside of the controversy of them being naked
Yes.
and blah, 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 I do like the fact that he did pull different people and he did bring people in politics. Unfortunately, Donald Trump is in politics now.
He knew not to put Hillary in there, though. huh?
Right. You know how to tweet it at him.
Drexel would have tweeted at Kanye so quick.
So I do like the fact that at the end of the day, because I know a lot of the times, especially myself, I exclude Donald Trump, saying that he's in entertainment, he's in business, he's not in
Right,
politics.
but
And so he is, and we all are at the end of the day because we all have certain initiatives to take. And so I do like that he did bring two
artistic flair.
very big names in politics right now into the bed and into the mix, and it was just
It was very interesting. And lastly, I really wish Lindsay from our show last week would have been here, but the Republican National Convention, they, of course, it's going to be July 18th through the 21st there in Cleveland, Ohio.
They're funny.
And you know what? They have really, and I hate to use the word pissed, they have really pissed off the people there in Cleveland. Now, you know that LeBron and the team has just won the championship. They put up a huge mural with LeBron. They put champions. They didn't even let the paint dry on the sign before RNC came in, and they're overtaking it and taking it down. They're putting up that, and they don't know when this will return with LeBron on there.
Right.
So
Well,
that's not doing really good.
Well,
I
the
get
Republican convention is in like 3 weeks, so I think they just got to figure out a way to. I mean, I get it. Like I get
right.
what I'm saying. I get the sentiment. Like, oh my goodness, you couldn't wait like at least another week. But I really think they need to like lock that place down because who knows what's going to happen once they actually get to the Republican.
No,
convention
that
in a
definitely is
couple
not going
weeks.
to lock them down. I don't know how people's like, for real. We just
Listen,
want
the
something.
people of Cleveland they've waited so long for this championship that I wouldn't be surprised if they're out there during the Republican convention
Just
just
getting crazy.
Getting crazy and going
like,
upset
bring
about
back our
this.
billboard. But like, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't.
Right.
Come on, you
That's-
short-lived their championship. You're crazy.
There is a swing state, and y'all are losing right now. Right now,
Oh
the
my-
RC.
Keep losing it.
Keep
losing it.
So, yes, that's what's going on in trending topics around the world, guys.
Thank you, man. Well, we want to thank our guest, Terrance Thomas.
Yes.
You can follow him at @TerryTommy on Twitter. Make sure you take our snap poll. Will Brexit affect us here in the United States?
Yes.
You can follow me at Drexel Heard on Twitter. And
Follow me at
platforms.
Hey, it's Lay.
And you can follow me at B. Sorrells.
And follow us at BHL Polyculture. And I won't be here next week. So Elayna will be taking over my chair, and we'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Where we could just
Yeah.
start.
So that we
I know
can-
that.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.